The old St. Hallows Hospital had been abandoned for decades, its crumbling facade a grim reminder of its dark past. Locals whispered about the eerie cries that echoed through its halls at night, about lights that flickered in its broken windows, and about shadowy figures that seemed to move where no living soul dared to tread. For as long as she could remember, Chloe had been fascinated by the stories. A freelance journalist with a penchant for the paranormal, she decided to investigate the hospital for her next piece. Armed with her camera, flashlight, and a journal, she approached the looming structure on a chilly autumn evening. The iron gates creaked open reluctantly, as though they had not been touched in years. The air around her felt heavy, the silence oppressive. Chloe hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, her breath visible in the cold air. The lobby was a chaotic jumble of overturned furniture, shattered glass, and peeling paint. The faint scent of antiseptic lingered, mingling with the musty odor of decay. Chloe's flashlight beam swept across the walls, illuminating faded posters and a long-forgotten reception desk. She felt a chill run down her spine as a soft sound reached her ears, a faint shuffle, like feet dragging across the floor. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing through the empty halls. No response. Chloe pressed on, her curiosity outweighing her fear. She ventured deeper into the hospital, her footsteps echoing eerily. The shadows seemed to stretch and move, playing tricks on her mind. She found herself in the maternity ward, where rows of rusted cribs stood like skeletal sentinels. The air here felt colder, and the silence was punctuated by faint rhythmic tapping. Chloe froze, her heart pounding. The tapping grew louder, and she swung her flashlight toward the sound. Her beam landed on a figure, a woman in a hospital gown, her back turned to Chloe. The woman rocked gently, tapping her finger against the wall. "Ma'am," Chloe whispered, her voice trembling. The woman stopped. Slowly she turned her head, revealing hollow eyes and a mouth that stretched into an unnatural grin. Chloe gasped, stumbling back, but when she looked again, the figure was gone. Chloe's breaths came in short, panicked bursts. She wanted to leave, but something compelled her to stay. She made her way to the second floor, where the psychiatric ward was located. The air grew thicker with every step, and the sound of distant whispers began to fill her ears. The ward was a maze of locked doors and shattered glass. Chloe's flashlight flickered, and she smacked it against her palm, cursing softly. When the beam steadied, she saw something scrawled on the wall in red. "Help us." Her heart raced as she felt a cold hand brush against her shoulder. She spun around, but no one was there. The whispers grew louder, forming words. "Why did you leave us?" Chloe's flashlight began to flicker again, and the whispers turned into anguished screams. She bolted down the hallway, her shoes slipping on the dusty floor. She found herself in the operating theater, its once sterile surfaces now coated in grime and rust. An old surgical table sat in the center, surrounded by broken equipment. Chloe noticed a file lying on the table, its pages yellowed with age. She flipped it open, scanning the handwritten notes. The file belonged to a patient named Lila Harper, who had died during surgery under mysterious circumstances. The notes mentioned a power outage, a panicked staff, and something that couldn't be explained. Before she could process the information, the room grew icy cold. The surgical lights flickered to life, casting harsh shadows. Figures began to materialize. Doctors, nurses, and patients, all translucent and bathed in a ghostly glow. Chloe stood frozen as the figures reenacted the moments leading up to Lila's death. The doctors shouted orders, the nurses scrambled, and Lila's ghostly form writhed on the table. The lights flickered violently, and suddenly all the figures turned to look at Chloe. "You shouldn't be here," they whispered in unison. The room plunged into darkness. Chloe's flashlight flickered back on, revealing that she was alone again. But the file was gone. Panicked, she ran toward the exit, but the hallways seemed to stretch endlessly, twisting and turning in impossible ways. She stumbled into a room that wasn't there before, a children's ward. The room was filled with ghostly children, their faces pale and their eyes vacant. They surrounded Chloe, their small hands reaching out. "Play with us," they chanted softly. Chloe screamed, pushing through the spectral figures. She burst out of the room and found herself back in the lobby. The front doors stood open, the night sky visible beyond. Without looking back, she sprinted out of the hospital and didn't stop until she was safely in her car. Days later, when she reviewed her footage, she saw things she couldn't explain.